Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Naaman Creative Show. Today's guest is someone who's lived a high level in sports, which I actually think this is the first time I've had a sports figure, like a professional sports figure, on the show. So, congrats, Jeff.
I'm honored. I'm honored. I
Yeah,
appreciate you having me on, man.
it's awesome. I appreciate you making the time because you're definitely running and gunning, and you've been in a cool position, which I'm excited. So you're a former professional soccer player, and you also now serve as the director of content strategy and brand development. Did I get that right?
Yeah, yes, sir. Something like that. It's
Something like that.
somewhere in that frame. It
I think
works
we
out
get the
well.
gist.
Yeah.
And that's for the Tampa Bay Rowdies. And so your world has been soccer. Um, Maybe we start there. What got you into soccer? How young were you? I would imagine you were pretty young to have been a pro player.
Yeah. So I started playing, just like kids do. Your parents throw you in a bunch of stuff. And so I started playing when I was 6 years old, doing, the rec thing. And then, at some point I remember my parents telling me that somebody recommended that I try club soccer, which is like the next level up because I was just doing things to keep busy like you do with kids, right? Like you throw
Sure.
them in a bunch of sports, entertain them, burn their energy. And then once I got to club soccer, it was funny. We haven't gotten there, but I was a goalie. So I was playing all these other sports. And I'll never forget when I was 7 years old. I'll never forget this, which is so odd. The coach at the time was like, "We don't have a goalie. Does anyone want to play goalie? Or anyone think they could play goalie?" I stuck my hand up and I said, I played baseball and basketball, so I bet I could do it." And I never left the goal again. They never let me out of the goal again. So from the time I was 7, that's like when I started playing goalie, and that's just how it worked out.
Was that your position for your entire life?
My entire life. Even
Wow.
when I tried, I used to fight it. My parents used to fight it
Uh,
because nobody wants to be a goalie, especially when you're younger. So I tried to fight it. My parents tried to fight it, and the coach was like, "Nope, this is a goalie. Trust me. I know a goalie when I see one. He's a goalie." So I never got out, and I just stuck with it, and here we are.
what's funny is my mom, when I was young, was my soccer coach, and she would not let me play goalie. She like protected me from that, and I was like, I want to play goalie, and so I was always so mad. I did like 2 years of soccer, and then I was just pissed
That you
off.
could play goalie, yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe she saved you, man. I don't know. We'll find out.
Well, maybe, but jokes a little bit on her because I became hockey became my sport, hockey
Okay.
and golf, and so I grew up through high school playing hockey, and like I think it was like seventh, eighth grade. Those years, I was a goalie in hockey. I was like, I'm gonna try this, and they needed a goalie for one of my teams, and I was like, I'll do it. And you know what? That was, in my opinion, now looking back on it, the most fun position I ever played. It was the scariest position, like people winding up a slap shot, and I'm just sitting there.
Right.
But it was so difficult, and there was a lot of pressure, but it was so fun.
I think hockey goalie looks like the most fun position because like the thing about soccer goalie is the net's so big. You
Right.
don't see as many shots. Like you're sitting back there by yourself all the time, like trying to stay out of your own thoughts of things that are going on. But hockey goalie is just nonstop action. Like you're
Right.
getting shot at all the time. The goal's a little bit smaller. You have all these pads on. I think I could dig hockey goalie. I definitely understand why you would think that way. Because whenever I watch the Lightning play and I'm watching, Vasilevsky or these other guys, it's just like they look like they're having so much fun.
It's a blast.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's definitely a real thing. And yeah, you are like it's a obviously smaller field. The rink is smaller, smaller goal, so you're in the action a little more. But I guess yeah, I want to know so many things because it's not every day you interface with people who are professionals in their trade. Like, so I talk to a lot of business owners and people who are leading organizations and things like that, and that's a different thing. But sports, there's something so obvious and um, what's the word? You can't shield not being good at sports.
Yeah, you're
It's
just out.
it's
You're out there.
you're out
Yeah,
there
you're in front of
exposed and you're
everybody.
good or bad.
Yeah.
You screwed up or you didn't. In different other realms of the world and industries, you could kind of cover up a mistake or play it a different way or whatever. But like if you let a goal in, that is that. It goes past that line. That's a goal. You know? There's like an accountability that's so transparent.
Well, and especially the goalkeeper position because nobody really understands it. because when you talk about soccer players, it's everybody else is playing their own game. And being a goalie is its own thing. We're the only people that can use their hands, obviously. We play a completely different sport than the sport that's going on around us. So you combine the fact that anytime that a goalkeeper gives up a goal, people that don't know anything assume that it's the goalie's fault.
Yeah.
Combine that with like everybody else around you isn't playing the same sport. There's something called the goalkeeper union in soccer
Uh-huh.
because it's a very tight knit group,
That
and
makes sense.
only the people that play goalie really understand day in and day out what that's like and what somebody's going through if they make a mistake or if they're having success. So it's a very unique position, and it was a very unique way to spend a majority of my life.
Yeah.
Learn a lot of lessons though, that's for sure.
Definitely. Well, I mean, also all the training, because you're right there with the team going through training, whether it be like weight training or, running or whatever it is, you're probably right alongside with them on a lot of stuff. But then you have maybe your particular cohorts or your particular coach that works with you on
Yeah,
a
so
particular thing.
normally how it works is, at least for me, the goalkeepers would come out first because, once the goalies need to get their practice in. And then once the team needs the goalies, like they call them over. So if you needed more extra time to train before you needed the goalies, so the goalies usually come out first, train in their little group, and then once the team decides, all right, we're ready for the goalies, then you kind of meander your way over and get yourself involved in the practice. So
Uh-huh.
you're really it's you have your tight knit group, which is interesting. Like this is a layer we could talk about, I'm sure, later on, but especially once you get to the professional levels, you have that tight knit group of people that you train with every day, but you're all fighting for the same job. But you need to lean on each other because I can't practice if the other guy isn't doing his job to help me, so, and
Ah.
vice versa. And then once you're done with that training, you go over with the team, and then you just kind of fit yourselves in the way the coaches see fit.
I would imagine it's pretty cutthroat. Like there's an interesting dynamic that you just brought up where it's like you got to play together, but you're also kind of in competition. How's that like?
Always,
What
yeah,
is that
always. It's
experience?
it's hard, especially when I've experienced it in different ways, right? So when I was on the team in Salt Lake, there was a pecking order. You knew the pecking order. You knew who the starter was. He was somebody that was very established in the league. You understood that he was going to start the games that he was healthy for, or if he wasn't called in with the U.S. national team, he was going to play. So that was easy because it was like, okay, that's the guy. And I'm the backup, and I'm just trying to do my best to get him ready for games and make sure that I'm ready in case, something happens and I need to step in.
Sure.
That was easy until it wasn't, because eventually you want to start playing, right? But then when I got to Portland, it was just all competition. Like every single day was competition. It was like, we don't know who the starter is going to be. Like
Wow.
you were brought in here to compete with the guy that was starting. And then just depending on how the games are going and how the rhythm's going of the season, like we're going to find out who the starting goalie is. And the idea is that we have the starting goalie towards the end of the season picked out and then into the playoffs. So once I got to Portland, it was more competitive dynamic in terms of trying to figure out who's going to start. But the way that I always approached things was I enjoy people, you know? So I understood that if the other person was starting, it was my job to get him ready to have the most success at his job because I understand the pressures that he's under. You
Sure.
know what I mean? Because I've felt those pressures. And then
You're
it
in the
was vice
union.
versa. Yeah. So it was vice versa. So it's like, okay, the coach makes the decision for me to start. My expectation is that the person that didn't get the start is going to help me prepare as best as possible. And even though he might be sitting on the bench, like if I give up a bad goal, he'll be thinking to himself, like, ooh, maybe I'll get a chance. But at the same time, like that's the first person that jumps off the bench to like put his arm around you and say, hey, like, it's okay. I know what you're going through. I know what you were thinking. Like bounce back because we still need to have a good game. We still need to win. So
Sure.
it's a very you learn a lot. You know what I mean? You learn a
Oh
lot
yeah.
about human interaction. You learn a lot about like the levels of competing versus support, and so it's a good growing process. And when you do that day in and day out, it piles on to a lot of life lessons for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah, like that whole teamwork aspect because you can be competitive and always be a team and that competitiveness uplifts all of you because you're challenging each other to be better in every moment. And that's not a bad thing as long as it's all in good heart,
Right.
where
Right.
I'm truly at the end of the day supporting you because we all when we win, we all win. But obviously you want to be the one playing, so there's that interesting dynamic too.
Especially at professional levels, because once you get to the professional levels, you're talking about my job to feed my family versus this other person's job to feed their family. And if you're
Right.
the starting goalie, you obviously are doing better financially, you're in a better spot, you get longer contracts versus somebody that might not be the starting goalie. So there's so many different layers to professional sports, and especially when you're talking about a position that's so specific that I mean, the best way I can say is it just teaches you a lot of life lessons and you learn a lot. You learn a lot through that process. And that's been something for me, at least, that I take from sports to try to carry over when you're talking about joining different teams, joining different workforces where maybe there's a competitive balance, but at the same time, it's everyone's got to be working towards the same common goal for the company or for whatever you're doing after.
Yeah. And there's a level of commitment that you've already proven when you've done something at the level that you've done. We were just talking about music because I'm a musician. My drum set's sitting here to my left, and we were starting to talk about that. Same goes with that. Like a lot of the difficulties that go into my practice of drums and playing. Like for instance, when I played hockey, I had a really great coach. And one of the phrases that I'll never forget is like, you practice how you play. You play how you practice. Essentially, those two should be the same intensity always, essentially, or near it, because, and for me, drumming is like that on steroids. Because if I'm just like goofing around drumming in practice and then I go on stage, that the music does not stop. If something goes wrong, it doesn't. Nothing stops at a show, at a game. Like all
Right.
of these are kind of interchangeable. Where like I have to play through it at the highest level. I have to be ready mentally and physically for that show, and prepared as possible to power through that, regardless of what happens. And there's also been on my show, I can't remember what episode, but Nick, he was a former police officer and now he's in the mortgage realm. But we like a big part of our conversation was just all of this experience as a police officer prepared him for difficulties in business that he just had no idea that he was preparing in different ways. And I feel like the world, if we do things at a high level, there's all this carryover, whether it be like teamwork or leadership or grit. You know what I mean?
Well, it's funny. I actually just last night I went over to USF. I graduated from USF, and they had a seniors athletics, leaving athletics like panel seminar. Like, what's it like to leave athletics? Like, what are the things that you could take with you into the real world? And I've sat on that panel the last few years because there's been so many things, whether I got them right, whether I got them wrong, that I've learned from transitioning out of athletics and that world into the real world that there are so many things that carry over, but it's also trying to figure out how can I apply those certain things that I've learned the right way and not letting it, not letting it almost like take over that you're not getting the results that you want right away, right? Because I think that at least for an athlete, I've never played music. I value music. I want to learn how to do music, but at least like as an athlete, it's like you learn these different things and these different characteristics and you apply them to your sport. And then when you're on the big stage, it carries over that way. But then you always get results, right? It's like I know that if I gave up a goal, that's a bad result. I know that if I made a really good save, it's like that's a good result. So you get like that instant gratification.
Right.
Whereas when it could be the same with music, like, oh yeah, I crushed that show. Like I didn't make any mistakes. I did it. Like now I'm walking off my job knowing that I did a great 5-star review or I did terrible. I got a 1-star review. But then, once you step into the real world, it's like you do your job and then you're just sitting there kind of like, how did I do?
Right.
Like I guess I'll find
Totally.
out at the end of the quarter when, my boss decides he wants to sit down and tell me how I did. So
Yeah.
there's just different things that I think that there's different things you could take from it, but then there's also like it's just such a different world that it's hard to translate everything over because it's so outward facing and the results are so obviously in your face and you know how you did based off of all the practice that you've put into it.
Right. But even then, like all of your practice, whether it be like endurance training or specific skill, like with goalie training, some of that stuff is compounding over time, and you don't you I guess you see the results more in real time, but there's a compounding effect that took a lot of time. And it's kind of the same in business. That is the difficult thing. Like with name and creative, like, all right, we're past 5 years, 5.5 years or whatever it is now. And that there's momentum that I was working on year one or like 3 years ago or 1 year ago where it's like now, just now, I'm like, oh, that contract is a direct result of 4 years ago work
Right.
and that seed that I planted. And I guess the same could be for like drum practice where it's like, oh man, that rudiments, just those rudiments and locking in was really helpful to now at this show, making sure that I'm locked in. And the same,
I
but
like that perspective. That's a good way to look at it. I never really thought of it that way.
all right.
Yeah, like you met like if like I made this save and that was a result of the work that I put in, you know, however many years ago working on this practice. I never
When you
thought of
were
it that
7.
way. I never thought of it that way because I always view everything so much at least in athletics, it's so much like game. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like how the
sure.
game go. Did you win? Did you lose? Did you give up goals? Did you play well? And it was like, okay, why did I make this mistake? Instead of like, okay, how did I make this save? Like, what was the, because you're expected to do the save.
Sure.
You know what I
Oh
mean? So
yeah.
it's like, I like that. I'm going to shift my mindset on that. I like that a lot,
Oh, right
actually.
on. Well,
There we
look
go.
at
Hey, this
this
podcast already, it's
already.
proven dividends.
All right. Thanks for listening. We'll see you guys later. All right. I mean, that. It is so important. I think in the world in general too. Like you touched on it to celebrate the wins, even the small ones. So it's like not the win of the game because you could lose the game. You say you let in 3 goals, and the other team only let in 2. So you lost. But how many did you save? It could have been a much worse loss. And like celebrating that, like, we did some really right things. And it's good to be recognizing those wins, even in the losses, as much as it is to analyze why we lost as general.
One of the best games I had in my career, the team lost 5-0. Like, not even kidding. It was by far one of the best games I had in my career. I had about 10, 11 saves that were just out of this world. Like, the game could have gotten so out of hand. And then after the game, it was one of those things where it was like, we got smoked, and I feel bad for the team, but I did my job to the absolute best of my ability. And everybody knew that, you know what I mean? But
Sure.
like, so when something like that happens, it's easy to be like, all right, well, I know that I was locked in. It's still a team game and it stinks that we lost, but like I know that I did my job to the best of my ability tonight. It's those ones where it's like, especially that's why I think being a hockey goalie is kind of where it's at. Because in soccer, it's, you could face one shot in 90 minits and
Right.
that shot could go in the top corner and there's nothing you could do about it. But you look back at your game and it's like, I did nothing. Like I didn't have to do anything and we lost 1-0. I didn't even save the ball. So it's like,
Uh-huh.
that's why you want those games where it's a little bit more action because you get more chance to, provide value to the team. But that's what
Sure.
makes there's so many different podcasts and so many different goalies to talk about it, just like the mental side of goalkeeping and the process of learning all that stuff. But those were some of the tougher moments where you don't get the type of action like the hockey goalie gets. That's why I always thought hockey would be the one.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
sure you'd be great at it.
Eh,
But it sounds like
I
you've
don't really
tapped
know how to.
yourself
I
out.
grew up in Florida, so I don't really know how to skate.
Yeah, I'm from Indiana, so it's just a
Yeah.
different climate. Man, it sucked waking up at like 5 a.m. and going to in the freezing cold, putting and then going to a cold rink in a freezing cold locker room and then putting on frozen equipment because I had to lay it out in the garage and it was literally frozen because my sweat would it was just
And there's just
cold
nowhere to find warmth in that
until
situation.
you were like 10 minutes into practice. It was like,
Right.
all right, now I'm like not cold. But it did like make me
Yeah, Bill's a little
it
character.
built
Yeah, Bill's a
character
little
for sure.
character. Yeah, how bad do you want it?
It's important. Honestly, that does carry through. Like cold for me is one of those like character building traits that I'll never forget. I was playing outside with my best friend Danny Sheeks. Shout out to him, when we were kids. And I remember there was this moment where we were next to the fence and I was just like, I am so cold right now. But I remember in my mind I go, if I get through this, I'm going to be stronger. And I was like a little kid. But I was like I recognized for a moment and I'll never forget it that like I'm going to be strong because I got through it. And there are certain things and then I had a job at a car wash and I was 15 at the time, but my fingers were like frozen because we were just working outside and it's funny the winter is our busy time, the
Okay.
busiest time. But my fingers were
At the
like
car wash?
frozen at the car wash because
Yeah.
everybody's getting the salt and
Oh,
stuff
true.
off.
Yeah, yeah.
It was crazy. We had lines, like the whole lot was a line
Because
all
nobody
day.
wants to do that themselves in the winter.
No,
Yeah.
that
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
So 2,000 cars a day.
Right.
But I was just like, the cold was such a good lesson, but I feel like for me with drums, that like experience of getting through something that was hard and powering through it, you know, the brain starts to click through those moments, whatever that may be, sports, music, a job, just playing and being cold. Like, those are defining moments where if you get through that and you take that with you, you can apply it to any situation, which is super beneficial.
Yeah, absolutely. I played in the coldest game in MLS history, and then I was on the bench for I think it's now the second or third coldest game in MLS history. And it was kind of the same thing. I'm standing there and I'm just like, if I survive this, I'm gonna like, there's nothing I can't do because I'm just frozen and I'm trying to play this game. I'm trying to do this thing. Big snowstorm, icicles like dangling off my face.
Uh-huh.
I'm just like, if I survive this, like, I think I'm gonna be all right.
Yeah. Well, clearly you are. So,
We'll find out. The more we talk, we'll find out about that one.
okay, deal, deal. We got some time. So walk me through it. Like, what's the trajectory of someone to end up playing professional soccer? You were a kid, and so you started to play club. So you were already taking like steps outside of the norm.
Yeah, I mean,
How did that
I'm a
trajectory?
little different from I think a lot of the stories that you hear from people that are playing professionally, especially at that level, because I played soccer for fun. Like I played it growing up, I played it for fun, and people said I was good. I don't have an athletic family background, like nothing like that. So it's like I played soccer because I was good at it. I played other sports as well, but soccer was the one that I kind of gravitated towards to start playing a little bit more competitively at a young age because we had a family friend that said that I should. And they were like, he'd be good enough to do that. Come join our team. So when I was 7, I was playing with the 9-year-olds because that was the first time that I could do that. So I always played a year up. So I was always playing with kids that were older than me. And then from there, it just kind of it stuck mainly because of the friendships. Like there were a couple times growing up where I quit soccer because I wanted to play a different sport. I wanted to do something different, but I always found my way back to soccer because I had made so many good friends growing up that I really missed my teammates and I really missed the people that I was around. So I was very fortunate that, shout out the Rowdies. I was very fortunate that at a young age, I got tied into this goalie coach. His name's Kevin Clinton. And he used to play for the Rowdies back in the 70s. And his son was around my age. Like we used to compete against his son. And he saw me at a young age and told my parents, hey, like he's good. Like I want to train him. He's good. And bless his heart, man, he trained me for free my entire life.
Whoa.
And then eventually his son came over to our club. So then he became our coach. And then from there, I had this goalie trainer that had been a professional goalkeeper. Like he's like a second father to me. He's like, he just took me under his wing and was like, I think that this guy can get to the next level. And so I was very fortunate in that. And then, but then, I wasn't ever, I was never called into like those big youth teams. Like I was never called into anything like that. I was just playing club soccer and like doing well at it. And then by the time I got to high school, my goal for playing in high school was, hey, if I can play in high school and do well, like maybe I can get to college. Like maybe I can get a college scholarship for this. And then it's like, it's all worth it for my parents, because like the amount of hours, the amount of weekends, and they'll tell you that they love it, but me as a parent now doing like one event on a Saturday, it's like, man, like this feels like a commitment. But like to do travel ball, that's like a real commitment, especially on the
Sure.
parental side of things, financially, time, everything. So my goal was always just like, all right, if I could do well in high school and then I get a college scholarship, that's like, and I get my college education through soccer, like that makes everything worth it. And I went to Countryside High School. So I grew up in this area. I played for the local clubs, went to Countryside High School. And then my junior year, we won states. And then my senior year, we were like first in the nation. We ended up losing to some team that we'd already beaten. Doesn't really matter. But like, it was all my same buddies that I played with growing up club were all my same buddies in high school. So it was just like tons of fun. And then, early in my senior year, I started getting recruited. And then eventually, I got recruited by some smaller schools. And then eventually USF came calling. And for me, I was just like, I'm going to go to the biggest school I can go to. Like, I didn't care about anything else. I was just like, you know what? Like, maybe it was like my ego or something, but it was just like, if I can go to USF and say that I'm going to USF, like that's a big soccer program. That's like like, look at me. You know what I mean? That was like kind of like a chip on the shoulder, look at me moment. So for me, it was always just like a step by step thing. And then I can keep, you want me to keep going with this?
Yeah, please.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's great.
So it was always just like a step by step thing. Like, can I get to college? And then once I got to college, I was just like, okay, like I'm good here. There was a guy that was already starting, and then, the competitor in me starts taking over a little bit. And I'll never forget, my coach called me in and he's like, hey, we're going to redshirt you your freshman year. And he's like, that means you don't play, but you get another year of eligibility. So at the time, it was like, okay, this is great because I can go get my master's still on soccer's dime. I could do a fifth year. I can get my degree. I can get my master's. I could do all these different things with my fifth year of eligibility that you can't do normally. So I was all about it. Cool.
Yeah.
Like a week later, the starting goalie got hurt, and then I had to play in a game. And then so I lost my red shirt immediately, like 2 weeks after we had this conversation. But I played, and I played well, and I got to play another game. And then at the end of the season, the conversation with the coach was like, hey, like I could play. Like, I want to be the starter. I think I could play. Like, if this isn't the conversation, then we might need to shift it to transferring. We might need to like have a different idea of, because like now that I've seen that I can play at this level, the competitor in me was like, I want to be playing. So then, my sophomore year, the coach convinced me to stay, and he's just like, the best guy's going to get the job. So I was just like, okay, like, let's go. And then eventually in my sophomore year, I ended up winning the job, and we won the Big East tournament that year. Like, I had a really good year. We won the Big East tournament, which was a huge thing for USF at the time. We made the Elite Eight. And then I started kind of getting on people's radars a little bit, but my goal was never to play pro.
Oh, really?
Never. Like, I'm still sitting here thinking like, okay, cool. Like, it would be really cool if I could put together an awesome career at USF and then go on with my life.
And what were you studying?
At the time, I was in advertising and marketing, which
All
is
right.
kind of like, I kind of ended up there
Oh,
anyway,
yeah.
in a roundabout way.
Paid off.
But then it was my junior year that, I played my junior year, and then the team didn't have as much success. I think we got knocked out in the first round of the NCAA tournament, but I was named an All-American. I was named first team All-American, which like I didn't see that coming. I didn't expect it. That like completely caught me off guard. And then after I got named first team All-American, the conversation shifted from, hey, like, let's get you out, like, let's get you the degree that you really want and get you out of here to get you on to your next life, was to the next phone call was, hey, let's get you into a major that we can get you out of here in 3.5 years because you're going to get drafted by Major League Soccer.
Wow.
So I never even thought about it. It wasn't on my radar. I didn't grow up thinking like, I need to be a pro. I want to be a pro. It was never on my radar until after my junior year of college. So then my mind shifted, and it was just like, okay, cool. Like, I went and got my communications degree because it was the fastest degree that I could get and get out of college when the draft happened. And then, yeah, it wasn't like, that's just kind of how it went down for me.
That's so cool. Wow. It's interesting because I would imagine a lot of people are like, I want to go pro. Like
Nowadays, especially everyone
Sure.
you talk to, like I coach kids, I talk to kids, like anyone that will listen to me, I'll talk to them about my experiences because I think it's important. All these kids want to go pro. It's like the parents' goal, it's the kids' goal. And for me, I'm like, this is not, if you don't make it pro, which is a very small percentage of people in the world,
Yeah.
is it a failure? Like,
Right.
what's the mindset here, So that's a focus and a shift that's happened in youth sports that I don't agree with. Like, that could be a whole different other podcast, but yeah, everybody wants to go pro nowadays. So it's an interesting one.
Well, I think that it's a slippery slope to setting because not everybody can go pro. But it's good to aspire to big things, but also to recognize that, that's there are different paths. And I think your authenticity of like, you thought soccer was fun, you had fun, you wanted to be with your friends, you were passionate about it. Those kind of things I think made you better, in a way, because you weren't such a fixed mindset. You were actually probably a more dynamic player. Like, people think of like on the field, that's the only reason why you're drafted. But there's because if you were not a nice person or a team player and people didn't like to be around you, that would get out and you probably would not be drafted. I'm sure there are exceptions, but overall, there's more to it than literally on the field.
If I'll get into my pro career as well. If I wanted to not retire from my injuries, like if I wanted to keep playing, just based off of being a good locker room person, I tell people this all the time. Like, think about who you are in the locker room. Think about who you are with the coaches. Think about who you are with the general managers. I could have stayed in this league as I could have stayed in Major League Soccer. I could still be in Major League Soccer right now as a backup goalie that's a good locker room guy. And people would have kept me around just because good energy, good vibes, good at dealing with people, good at my job, of course. But there's something to be said about, and you see it in work culture too. There's something to be said about someone that can get along with people, that brings the right energy to the table, that doesn't get in the way of things, but like adds value.
Yeah.
And I tell people that all the time, especially when guys are talking about, thinking about leaving or like, how long do they want to play and all these things, like getting into the pro worlds, especially young players. I'm like, be a good locker room person first. Like, be that first. Because if you're a rookie that's not getting playing time and you're a pain to deal with, you're the first person that's out. But if you're a good locker room guy and you're working hard, like, they're more likely to keep you around, which, like, if you just got to hang around until you get your chance. And then if you take your chance, you either take advantage of it or you don't. But,
Right.
like, you want to do everything you can in your power to hang around. That's, like, the number one goal.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after this quick break. Let's face it, there are times a business absolutely needs a new website built from scratch, done the right way, and Naaman Creative can help with that. However, in some cases, you don't need to rebuild. At Naaman Creative, we specialize in transforming existing websites with ongoing management, maintenance, SEO strategy, functionality enhancements, and performance upgrades that drive new traffic and engagement. Do you have an existing website that you're looking to evolve and grow? Connect with us at info@namancreative.com or visit our website at namancreative.com to get started. We're back. Thanks for sticking with us. Now back to the conversation. So what was your reason? I know we're bouncing around because I do want to like dive into like what it's like being a pro, but you had mentioned that you could have probably stuck around and been that locker room guy and back up. What was your reason to not go that route?
I have a family, and we always knew that coming back here was going to be what happened. And, we had two young kids at the time, and we saw the shifting dynamics of what was going on in Tampa. And it was kind of one of those things where it's like, let's see how my contract plays out. Let's see how it plays out. Let's see how things go. Like if I'm the starting goalie and we're having tons of success and my career takes on a completely different second life, then the answer is very obvious. Like then we're going to keep riding this wave until the wheels fall off. And then, I got injured when we were trying to figure out that decision, and it was a season-long injury. And it was like, oh wait, the wheels actually fell off. So it was like, so it's just kind of like, it was one of those things where I was really enjoying playing. I was really happy to be playing, and I had found like some sense of peace that I probably didn't have without. I found a sense of peace that I didn't have before, just knowing like I'm okay if this ends and I'm okay if this keeps going. And it was kind of like, all right, well, let's let fate figure out what's going to happen. And then I got injured, so it was just kind of like, oh, all right, yeah, it's probably a sign to be okay with ending it and moving home.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Oh, it seemed right. How did you get injured? Like, what was the play?
It was so unique. I mean, it was like I literally just kicked a ball, something I'd done a million times. Yeah, I went back, kicked a ball, and then the tendon that attaches your quad to your hip, mine just like popped. I think it like had enough wear and tear on it where it was just time for it to go. And once that happened, it really at the time it really like obviously it was sad, and it was one of those things that sticks with you, and it's like, man, like that's not how you want to go out.
Right.
But I
You
always
want
kind
it to be epic.
yeah, of course. I always told myself though, like I'm either gonna go out on my own terms or I'm gonna go out on a stretcher, and I went out on a stretcher.
Okay.
So like not the ideal way to do it, but that's how it ended, and that's how it happened. So it is what it is.
It was your body's own
Yeah,
terms.
my body was like no mas, and
Yeah.
to be fair, like I feel better now, but like my body was very beat up. I had different I still have surgeries that I need to get, and
Boy.
there were a lot of different things going on. So I think my body was literally like, I don't think we should be doing this anymore. So I took that as a sign.
Yeah. When you push your body to that level, I mean, I think like you had said, like your body had enough, like that one kick. It's like, all right, there's the straw that broke
A
the back.
ball, that's something I'd done, I mean, millions of times in my life.
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh, okay, nope, your body's not ready to do this anymore. It's like, oh, wow, that's the thing that I thought it was built to do.
Yeah. It's funny. I'm thinking about my one of my daughters. She's been falling a lot lately. She's almost 16 months, and she's just the sweetest girl. But like, and she's like, she thinks she's a tank, and she climbs on everything. But like some of her falls, like I'm like, oh my god, that looked brutal, and she kind of like cries for like a split second, then she's like, and back up. And then some falls, like it doesn't look like anything, but those are actually the worst falls, and she gets up with a black eye or whatever. I'm like, oh my god.
Yeah,
But
it's
it's
kids are tough to figure out with the
uh
injuries. Those ones are tough to figure out with the
yeah,
injuries. Yeah,
it's like
you never
how did
really
this
know.
happen?
Yeah, you never know what's gonna happen with those ones.
Yeah, yesterday I was at a swim class with her and just holding her, and then she opens her mouth, and I'm like, her tongue is bleeding. I'm like, when did that happen? You just never know. But she's like smiling
Yeah,
and
you
happy.
never know, man. Yeah, kids are tough.
Yeah.
That's funny.
So you were in how long were you a pro for? Yeah.
So I was a pro for 12 years.
Okay, so
So
that's
I'll
a good
dive in.
run,
Yeah, it was a good
right?
run. It was a good run for sure. I'll dive into that. So it was funny because this is how it all kind of ties into the Rowdies, and this is why, like for me, working for the Rowdies means so much. Like it means a lot more to me than just a job, and like I'm very passionate about the organization because they really helped me.
Yeah.
So out of and I'm making my career sound like very rosy. Like there were a lot of struggles and there was a lot of like different things that, were very taxing mentally and things like that. So out of college, expecting to get drafted pretty high, doesn't happen. And then so I get drafted by Real Salt Lake, a team out in Utah. And I get out to their like preseason camp, and very quickly it was very obvious that I wasn't going to make the roster. They had three goalies there that were already established. One of the guys, the third string goalie, ended up being one of the best goalkeepers in MLS history later down the road. The
Oh,
first string goalie was quite literally the best goalie in MLS history, and they had a backup that had been there for 8 years that everybody loved. So I show up and I'm like, what am I doing here? Like, I was married at the time, and it's like you pack your bags, you tell everyone you're leaving, you get out there, and then like within the first week, I'm like, this isn't gonna work. This isn't gonna work. Like this, I'm not making this roster. So I give it 2 weeks of preseason, and then eventually I talked to the goalie coach and was like, hey, like the writing's on the wall here. Can I, like, I'm assuming I'm not going to make this team. Can I get released from here, or like, can I start looking for other teams and try to figure out somewhere that I can go? He's like, yeah. He's like, you're not gonna make the roster. He's like, but we have your rights. So like at the time, like if you drafted a player, they still had professional control over you in Major League Soccer.
huh.
So like in order for me to go somewhere else, they would have had to wheel and deal, or something would have had to happen, which was fine. Like to be honest, I wasn't ready to play at that level, and I found that out pretty quickly. But my first phone call was to Tampa Bay Rowdies,
Ah.
because I had practiced with them in college. I knew the GM Perry Vanderbeck very well. My old coach played for the Rowdies. Like everybody at the Rowdies knew who I was. So my first phone call was to the Rowdies, and I said, "Hey, it's not going to work out here. Do you have a spot on your roster? Like, do you have a spot on your roster for me? Because I'm trying to figure out my next move." And he was like, "Yeah, absolutely." So I signed a deal with the Rowdies. Like, left Salt Lake, had a deal with the Rowdies signed within a week,
Whoa.
and then it's second division, so it's very different. Like the money's not even close. Like
To what you would have
the
had.
yes, like the structure is not close, but for me it was perfect because it was home. I was home, and it was like I'm comfortable here. I can do this here. I can work other jobs here, which I did because I had to make money. But it was like, this is where I'm comfortable. And if it wasn't for the Rowdies, I don't know that I would have kept playing at a Division two somewhere else. Like it had to be home, or else I probably would have stopped playing and moved on with my life. So, I do my 2 years with the Rowdies, and I was fortunate that I say fortunate, but I feel bad for the other guy. But he got injured. The starting goalie got injured. That's just how it happens. But the starting goalie got injured in my first year, so I took over halfway through the season, played well. They gave me the starting job my second year, and then my second year was 2012. We won the championship. I was goalie of the year. I was like best 11. We had an epic final at Al Lang Stadium. If anybody's listening to this that was at the game in 2012, they know exactly what I'm talking about. If you're not, you should YouTube it. It was crazy. And then so yeah, like we ended up winning that game, and after that, Salt Lake called me back up, and they were just like, "Hey, like we're ready to bring you back now," because they still had my rights. So they're
Ah.
like, we're ready to bring you back in now as the backup, and we'd love to have you here. So it's just like, all
And
right,
you had no
cool.
choice.
I didn't have it. I could have waited it out, but I was just excited to get the contract. It
Sure.
was like, man, like I didn't get this 2 years ago. I did my thing, and now I'm getting this contract. So I signed with Salt Lake. Like some stuff happened in between that it's not worth detailing because this could go on forever. But then I get to Salt Lake, and then, we have a very good team. I made some of my best friends on this team. It's a bunch of established guys. Like the team my first year made the MLS Cup final. I was a backup for that. I was a backup on the bench for that. So it was just like a very well established team that I got to find myself on. And then, the starting goalie got called into the U.S. national team. The World Cup was the next year. I started getting games. I started playing. People started saying like, oh, wow, this Attinella guy is pretty good. Like, he's probably like one of the best backups in the league. And then that kind of turned into my reputation. Was every time I got to play, it was like, wow, he's the best backup in the league. He's the best backup in the league. Like, he could be starting anywhere else but Salt Lake. So then it was kind of one of those things where it's like, Salt Lake gives me another contract because they're like, oh, we want to keep him. And I'm like, I want to go. Like, it's time for me to go because I want to go compete because I'm playing against this guy. And then eventually the GM, God bless him, Craig Weibel, he helped me get out when he probably shouldn't have, but he helped me get out of Salt Lake. And in a roundabout way, I ended up in Portland, which was like a dream. Portland Timbers soccer to me is like the pinnacle. That's like, the fans are crazy. The town loves it. It sells out every single game. They chant the entire 90 minutes. It's like the pinnacle. So when I got signed by them, it was just like, this is it. Like, this is where I'm supposed to be. This is meant to be. Won the position my first year there. We made MLS Cup final my second year in 2018, which I was a starting goalie for, which was awesome. It was crazy. We played in Atlanta Benz Stadium in front of 70,000 people. Crazy. We lost 2-0. We didn't have a chance. We didn't have a chance in that environment. But so, I'm glancing over that, but that was like the career year. That was the peak. And then I just started getting injured. And then from there, it just slowly, starting goalie, backup goalie, third string goalie, backup goalie, first string goalie, like the injuries and the fluctuation just started happening and taking its toll. And I just never wanted to leave Portland. I just loved it. I loved being a Portland Timber. I loved being on that team. Could I have left and probably bettered my career? Probably, but I don't know. I just didn't. And then eventually once that injury happened, that was just like, okay, cool. Like, I'm good. Time to call it and then move on home.
Wow. What a journey. Would you say that what's the average of someone, a pro?
Low.
Not 12.
No.
So
yeah.
Is it different for goalies though?
Yeah, goalies are kind of like quarterbacks. Like, you get a little bit better with age, you get a little bit better with experience. Like,
Right.
The younger guys are probably not the ones having the most success. It's those guys that are like in the 30s. And then, if you're able to stay healthy, the guys that are like 35, 36 are probably playing the best because they've seen everything. But you have to be really good to stay there.
Sure.
And do that. Yeah.
Wow. What a neat like realm of life, like not a lot of people like some musicians might be able to say that they've played in front of 70,000 people, but even then that's like, those are A-level bands.
It was crazy.
That's a lot of eyes.
Yeah, it was crazy. I mean, you think about all the events. I still laugh at it because I'm a big sports guy. So like, you see like the SEC championship game or like the college national championship game or like, anytime that anything's going on in Atlanta Benz Stadium, they host all the huge events. And like, there's still times where I have to like pinch myself and be like, dude, you played there.
Yeah.
Like, you did that in front of these people, in front of all these people. And then, so it's cool. Like, it's a pinch yourself moment. I wish we would have won. That would have been cooler, but
yeah,
it is what it is.
Yeah. Yeah. You take what you can get there and you only have so much control.
Yeah,
over
for
that.
sure.
It's really neat though. I mean, and it's really inspiring that you're able to now. So you said you coach kids. You kind of bring that back. So you keep your career. It's just a different form.
Yeah, it's been interesting. It's I think with a lot of athletes or a lot of people that have done something for so long, you spend a lot of time trying to figure out what's the right thing I should be doing, right? Like, and I was pretty active. When I was playing, I wrote 5 children's books and they've been published. So like, I did different things when I was playing that like kept me a little bit busy for my mind outside of sports. And, like podcasting and things like that were stuff that I did when I was playing. So I always try to keep myself busy trying to figure out what my path was going to be when I was finished playing. But until you actually hang them up and you're staring at, no income coming from what you've been used to doing. And like, I still got to figure out these different things. You do a lot of different stuff to try to figure out what the right path is. And coaching kids, like, I like to do that on the side now. And like, but like you spend a little time thinking like, oh, is this something that I could do for a living? Like, is this something I want to do for my life? But, for me, it was one of those things where it's like, this is a cool side thing where I can help where I can. But
Sure.
there's a lot of time figuring out your path and what you want to do that not a lot of people talk about, especially when you're leaving pro sports.
Yeah, I think that's. I mean, I don't mean to like bring music into it, but I think it's the same.
Oh, of course.
Like bands and musicians have their rise, and then they're burnt out, or for one reason or another, they got to check out, or they caught a groove and now they're not there, and so it's like, what's next? Do they teach guitar lessons?
What's the next,
Or
like, because you gotta make the income, you gotta work, you gotta keep busy. So it's like, what's
yeah,
the next thing? Well, nowadays all the '90s bands are resurfacing, which is awesome.
sure,
Yeah,
it is cool to see
which has been
that.
awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, hey, you got your energy, and
I saw the Goo Goo Dolls. I saw the Goo Goo Dolls like 3 weeks ago. I got invited to this like really like awesome private fundraising thing. I forget his name. I forget the lead singer's name, but it was just him and a guitar for like 2 hours. It was the coolest thing I've ever seen. It was so cool.
oh,
Yeah.
those intimate like one-off shows are really neat. You know, I've played a couple where it's like this isn't my favorite show, but this is special. Like there's one house show that I played where it's like this is not my biggest show at all, but this is really fun
Yeah.
and being
The
ground
intimate
level with
setting
people.
and
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, it's just like it's just a lot of fun, and inevitably cops come, of course. Yeah,
adds to the show though,
it's
right?
just always the case. Yeah. So you're now with the Rowdies in a different capacity. So I guess what brought you back to full circle as you were telling me, what was that? Okay, I'm back, but in this context.
So when I retired, I worked for a company called Smack Apparel, a t-shirt company called Smack Apparel, and I did similar stuff, branding, marketing, social media, like PR, all that stuff for this company. And while I was doing that, I was also doing broadcasting for soccer leagues on the side.
Oh, cool.
So it was kind of like I'm doing the media branch here, and Smack Apparel is like it's all about sports. I'm a sports guy, like through and through. So
Clearly.
yeah, like that's like there was like sports, American football, hockey, baseball. I mean, I'm sure if people are listening to this, I'm sure that they own a Smack Apparel shirt if you have lived in this area for long enough.
Uh-huh.
And I was doing broadcasting on the side. And I kept meeting with the Rowdies being like, hey, like I think we could do some different content ideas, some different fun content ideas, like not in full capacity, but like I want to help you guys. Like, let's get the word out. I want to do these things. And I kept sitting down with the president. His name's Ryan Helfrich, great guy. And I kept meeting with him throughout the years. And it's just like I'm coming back to games, and eventually when I was ready to leave Smack, I saw him at a game and I was like, Ryan, like I'm ready to like make this full time if there's a spot. Like I want to like I'm thinking about shifting careers, like I'd love to sit down and talk with you. And we talked, and eventually it turned into a role that that I'm in now, where it's adding more content value to the organization. It's trying to get it out in the media in different forms. It's using my connections. It's just a lot of different things to try to add value to the club and try to get it more well known and like more popular amongst the community. Because throughout the 4 years that I was retired, it was like I'm doing youth soccer stuff. I'm doing this broadcasting. I'm having multiple parents come up to me all the time as the soccer guy asking me what their kids should be doing about soccer.
Oh boy.
So I'm sitting there and I'm watching. I'm like, this sport is growing so rapidly here. And there's this organization that has been around for such a long time. There's such a storied history of it. And it means so much to me. We got to start I got to do my part to start connecting these things and bringing them all together and trying to really find out how we can get this team out there in front of as many people as possible, because it is such a good product. It is soccer at a very high level, and it's the team in Tampa. You know what I mean? It's a team in Tampa and St. Pete. This is your soccer team. And I don't think a lot of people are in tune with that, or at least not enough
Sure.
people for my liking.
Yeah.
So it was one of those things where it's like I'm very passionate about it, and the stuff that I did with Smack Apparel in terms of like branding and getting out there and media connections and things like that, and the career that I had in soccer, it all just kind of blends together into this, like, at least for me, in my opinion, this perfect mix of my previous life, my life post playing, and trying to build something that I'm actually really passionate about. So that's how it all kind of came together. Luckily, Ryan believed in that too. So
Shout out to
yeah,
Ryan.
shout out Ryan. Like I'm fortunate that it all came together. And then on top of it too, like with the timing of things, like with the new ownership coming in, there's new energy, there's new juice, there's new, I knew the old owners as well, and they were great people. But like anytime you get new owners into a sports franchise, there's new juice, there's new energy, there's new, you could take things in a lot of different directions. So it was just a combination of a lot of things that came together, and timing was perfect. And now it's just like I love what I'm doing, and I'm trying to spread it as best as I can.
So cool. It's how ideal.
Yeah, it worked out. Yeah, it really did.
It's like it seems like now if you could kind of construct a night like your chosen profession, like this would be near it.
It's
If you could
close. Yeah,
actually
for
like,
sure.
what do you want to do when you wake up?
Yeah.
It's like what would be ideal? It seems like you found a really good groove.
It's been cool, and it's more than anything, it's the full circle nature of it.
Yeah.
Because I think that this is the time where the Rowdies can really blow up. I think that soccer's taken off. The World Cup's coming this summer. There's so many different opportunities for the organization, and it's just the timing of it seems very, very right. And then I get to do the color analyst work too, which I love. Like I love broadcasting the games, and they brought me into the booth to do that as well, and I love that. So it's the one thing I was doing as my side project, my main job, soccer. It all just kind of jumbled up together into a nice little mix for me.
That's so cool. Was that because you put yourself out there and said like I'd like to do that, or someone knew that you were doing that and then asked you?
Someone called me. I had an agent because I was doing podcast stuff. I was doing different things for Smack, and there were different influencers and stuff that wanted to work with me and things like that. And so I had an agent from this area who, like, he works in that space, but he also does soccer broadcasting. And he just called me and was like, "Hey, would you ever want to try this?" And I hadn't given it any lick of thought. And I was like, "Yeah, I could try it." Went down there. I tried it once, liked it, thought it was okay. The guy gave me good feedback. He's like, "If you do this more often, like, you can make a job out of this." And I was like, "Oh, that's interesting. Never thought about that before, because I like yapping. You could tell I like yapping. I like talking on podcasts in this setting. But when you do the games, it's a very different type of conversation. It's a very different type of talking.
Sure.
And then it just kind of like year after year, it just kept stacking on top of it. And then, when the Rowdies were like, "Are you tired of traveling doing this? Like, you could come do this for us." I was like,
Sold.
yeah, yeah, say less.
Cool.
Yeah, that sounds more ideal than what I was doing. So
So again, like just falling into it. But all that time, from like what you were studying in college and,
talk about the
knowing
stacking,
game,
bring it back, the stacking like we talked about initially. Yeah.
that's really has played out so transparently in your life. It's really, I'm really happy for you.
Oh, I
That's neat.
appreciate it,
We
man.
don't
Yeah,
know each
thank
other
you.
very well, but like I'm so happy to hear that. That's just very cool. And I look forward to like what we can do together, especially the other things I have going on. And I feel like I should say, because of some of the connections, like one of our members, he always has season Rowdies tickets, but sometimes he'll hit me up and be like, me and my clients can't go. Like, you want them? And I'm like, yeah. And so I've brought my family. I brought a client or two, and partners to some of these Rowdy games. And my wife, who's from Turkey, so
Okay. Enjoys
football
it. Yeah, appreciates
is
it a
big
little
over
bit.
there.
Yeah.
And it's just really fun. I brought my father-in-law who's from there, and there is a fun energy in that stadium. I mean, sports in general just have a cool energy, but that location is beautiful. I don't know, like even for me, like the colors are fun, but because I'm a hockey player, so I don't know soccer like fully in and out, but it was like so fun, and you're really close to the action, at least those seats, and so it's just really neat night. Like I recommend if anybody hasn't been to a game, like just buy some tickets. Also, I feel like that's a really affordable experience.
Compared to some other stuff going
Oh
on in
my
this area,
goodness.
for sure,
Yeah.
for sure,
It's totally worth
for
it.
sure. No, that's what I think. That's what like I said, like I've played in these big stadiums, and that's cool. It's an experience for what it is, right? But when you're talking about bringing your family or diving into a team and really like getting passionate behind a team, the stadium setting is so intimate.
Yeah.
And we make a point, and the players make a point, and this year the team, like I'll talk about the team here in a little bit, but like the team is a bunch of awesome dudes. Like we're starting this podcast, so like I've been very
That's so
hesitant to like
cool.
want to get to know them too well until I sit down with them and talk to them, 'Cause I
Right.
think that there's something about having real conversation where you really get to know somebody.
Yeah.
And as you know, as I'm sure,
Yeah.
but but like every person I've talked to, and it's like it's just a bunch of good people. And after games, it's like it's a point to go sign autographs for people that are hanging around. Like players go sign autographs for kids that are waiting around after the games. Like, where do you get that?
Yeah, says a
It's you could
lot.
be right on top of the action. And if your kids want to run around, like there's a place for them to run around. And it's just it's just a very unique pro sports experience that I think people need to really value and appreciate, because it is the game being played at a really high level, but it almost feels like you're part of it. Like you're really like a part of it. And then especially when you talk about, 7,000 or so seats at Outland Stadium, the more people that are in there, if you're a fan, if like you can actually impact the game. Like when you're
Sure.
in a big crowd and like you're playing in front of all these people, like yeah, it's loud, like of course it's loud. There's a lot of people there and like it's going to be that way. But when you're talking about an intimate setting like this, it's like the more people that show up and the more people that get behind it and the more people that are really like cheering and into it, you actually have an impact on what's going on the field, which you can't say that at a lot of places. So I think it's a pretty, if you haven't been again, or if you have been, like it's a unique thing that I think a lot of people should really be appreciating and valuing, honestly, because it does add value to the community.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's enormous. Like we're all like that's an illustration of community. That you don't often think, and we haven't talked about it until this, that the game is also affected by the people in the stands.
Oh,
Just like in music.
100%.
The show is affected by the energy that you're getting back.
A
People are
hundred
like just
percent.
standing there straight and quiet versus like yeah or singing along. That is a different vibe, and you feed and everything's energy, like literally.
Of course.
So like you literally feed off of that positive energy, that enthusiasm, the support.
The players on the field feel it for sure. I've lived it. I know it. There's games where, there's games that I've played in where there's no fans there. And you got one guy, that's very loud and just obnoxious. And it's just like he's the only voice you hear.
Yeah,
And that's annoying, but it doesn't give you an advantage. Like it doesn't give the home team an advantage. That's just like, oh, this person's very annoying.
sure.
But then once you get to those stadiums and it's like that's why I heart Portland. Like Portland was like these people were singing the entire game. Like you walked into the stadium, when you walked into Portland, you as the away team, right? You get there a couple hours before the game. The fan section is already almost filled up, which is thousands of people. They have songs that they're singing at you the second you walk into the locker room getting off the bus. And then they drink, like when you're walking off the bus, there's fans jingling their keys, telling you to get ready to go home, like take your keys and go home. So it's like, and it's just an energy that you feel immediately when you walk into the stadium. And my pipe dream is like, how can we turn this organization, the Rowdies, who has a huge following, who has a big fan base, who has a beautiful stadium, they have the support of the city, into something like that.
Yeah,
Because once you're doing something like that, that's something that's going to span generations.
a
Like
hundred
it's not like a
percent.
momentary flash in the pan. This is like you're born into it. So it's like, in my opinion, it's like, how do we start getting these people that are living here? There's people moving in. You said you're from Indiana. There's people that are moving in from all over the country. I understand everybody has their home teams, right? But your kids are being born here.
Yep.
Your kids are being born here. What games are you going to take them to?
Right.
What traditions are you going to start building with your families? Which teams are you going to support? And it's like, if you like soccer and if you want to watch soccer, the Rowdies are your team, period. So let's like start trending it in that direction and start building something that can, your kids can be fans of. That's my, if I could like, foresee this happening 10 years from now and I'm stacking it by starting talking about it on this podcast, that's like the layers of what I'm trying to build this to.
Yeah, no, it's clear. I think your podcast with the players, I mean, I wonder how very few organizations, if any, are doing something like that, making people more accessible. So, like, that's enormous because there's that connection and they're more invested and there's like this back and forth energy within this. And you also get to know the people behind it because that game is just a blip in the season and the story of these players and and like what you've been through and what you've accomplished and what you've gone through. It's like this is all such a vibrant story that plays out on the field in these 90 minutes, but we could take a lot throughout our lives and support each other in all sorts of different ways. So I love your take on it. I think that goal will come to fruition over time. It's inevitable.
It'll take time for sure to build it, but there's a vision. I think that that's part of it. I have a
Yep.
vision for what I think it can be, and to be honest, like a lot of it is taking it from what I experienced because I've
Sure.
seen it.
Yeah.
They play in a stadium that used to be a baseball stadium, Portland.
Uh, really?
I've seen it. Like I've lived it and I've seen it. So it's like the vision is clear.
Oh yeah.
But it's back to your point about the players, and it's the same with musicians. It's the same with anybody that's on a big stage, right? You see that person for what they do, and you're like, oh, he's a drummer, like he's very good at drums, like kudos to that guy. But it's like, what were the struggles that that person had to go through to get to the stage that they're at? Like, who's the human behind these soccer jerseys that you're watching? And it's like, oh, okay, he's a good human. He's a good family man. He's a good this,
Right.
that, the other. It's like
Right.
those are the people that you really want to fall in love with and support.
Definitely.
So it's like, how can we get the stories out? We're doing the best that we can with it. So it's like, how can we get our fans to get to know these players, who they are as humans, so that they support them as humans and they love them and they know that they're going to give their all on the field no matter what. But like win, lose, or draw, the fans still love them because you knew that this person gave maximum effort. You know that this is a good human. And it's like, that's what keeps people coming back, with wins, losses, or draws. Like if you could support the humans behind the jerseys, that's where you start building fans, like real fans.
Sure. Yeah. They're in it. What's the podcast called?
Tampa Bay Rowdies podcast, easy as can be.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
Okay.
easy,
Yeah.
easy,
You can't
right?
forget it.
Didn't want to overthink the name.
No, sometimes straightforward is the way to go. I
Yeah,
love
didn't
that.
want to overthink it.
Real quick before we end,
Yeah.
we've reached a moment called rapid fire.
All right, let's do it.
Sound effects and all.
Love
So, just a few questions. I ask them to all guests. So I like to see the similarities and the differences. So if you can keep it concise, great. If you need to expand it, all good. You just
I
lose
have a hard
points.
time keeping concise. You know that already,
All right.
I'm sure, but
You're
I'll do my
good.
best.
All right. So, question number one. I love this one. What's your biggest source of inspiration?
My kids. Yeah, my kids, for sure.
I've never been more inspired. Like right when my first one popped out, I was like, "Yep, everything's just changed.
Yeah, gotta get it done.
Yeah.
No excuses anymore.
Failure is not an option."
No. Yeah.
Yeah.
So my kids, for sure.
Love it. How old are your kids?
9 and 6. So my daughter's 9 and my son's 6.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
You have one of each.
Yep.
Great. Oh, neat. I'm happy for you there.
Thank you.
Okay, good answer. That's the right answer. 10 points.
Nice.
So island time. You're plopped on an island. You have one book to read that plops down from the sky. That's your book that you just read continuously. What's that book?
Green Lights. Matthew McConaughey. Love that book.
Okay.
Love that book.
Yeah, it's fairly new.
That book changed my life. That book changed my perception on a lot of things.
Cool. Okay. Awesome. Green Lights. Matthew McConaughey.
To be fair, I listened to it on audio, so like his voice probably played a big part in changing how I read it. So now anytime I go back and read it, I read it in his voice, which is like soothing, the McConaughey
Oh,
voice.
man.
But that book caught me at the right time in life for when I read it.
Oh, perfect.
So that's been an inspiring book for me.
It's always good to find like that right thing at the right time, like whether it be music or a book or a film or a show. It's like, oh, that hit.
Yeah.
That got me.
It got me at the right time for sure.
And it's always good to hear when the author reads their audiobook, especially like a voice like his. It's like, come on, you can't.
I stood
you
no
can't
chance.
not.
Yeah, I stood no chance.
Yeah. All right, same island. You're there, and now a music album drops from the sky. What on repeat? What's that?
I mean, I'm a very in the moment music guy, but I think I could listen to Mumford and Sons live at Red Rocks
Mm-hmm. Okay.
nonstop.
They're great. And it's
Yeah.
cool that you chose a live album.
I love live albums.
Yeah.
More so than any. I love live albums. That's my thing.
Because there's a fidelity and a rawness to it, like a game.
Oh yeah, I love it. And there's like they improvise a little bit, and then you hear they lean into the crowd. It's like, come on, Red Rocks, and it's just like you hear the people. I love live albums.
Oh, cool. Oh, yeah. Neat. I haven't listened to Mumford Sons in a bit, so thanks for the reminder.
I mean,
they're great.
If 2 months from now, my answer to that might be different, but I've just been
Sure.
like, when you get into like one of those modes where it's just like, I'm going to listen to this album now.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I'm in one of those modes with that album.
Through lots of modes. Yeah, that's why it's a tough question because it's
Yeah,
like, well, how am I feeling on this island? Did I just lose everybody and now I'm alone, or am I vacationing on this island?
true.
You know,
Yeah, I might go Kenny Chesney if I'm on a vacation, but it seemed like I was alone, just trying to get through my thoughts.
it's funny because the episode we dropped today with Dr. Hamad Shirazi, he's a great dude, chiropractor from Atlanta, and he's very holistic. And I asked him this question. He goes, probably like a tone, a frequency.
Oh, yeah,
And
that's
I was
probably a
like,
smart
"Oh,
answer.
you just broke open the whole game with
Yeah,
that because it's like, well, if it's going to be on repeat, you know, I if you choose an album, it's a mood." And I was
that's
like,
true.
"Good answer."
Like one of the find one of those anti. If I'm alone, maybe one of those anti-anxiety albums. Just put
Yeah,
it on
Pure
repeat.
Relaxation by
Yeah,
Kevin Who.
yeah, that might be the winner then.
All right, last question. How do you define success?
How do I define success? I mean, I think my answer, honestly, I think my answer even just like a year ago would be totally different. But I mean, is it bringing you joy? You know, like if something's bringing you joy, that's probably a success. Because there's a lot of things in the world right now that don't bring people joy, that are in your face a lot.
Right.
So if you're doing something that brings you joy and you're putting food on the table, then I think that that's probably a success.
Absolutely. Yeah, great answer. You've just won rapid fire.
Nice. Yeah.
Congratulations.
I'm glad you
Yeah.
got me this year because last year my answer might have been different. But no, I think bringing joy is a good one for that.
That's great. You know, you'd be surprised. Maybe nope, you wouldn't probably be surprised, but that's like happiness, joy, sustained happiness. Those are the most common, regardless of the people who I have on here.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. That's why I like asking these
Well, I think
questions.
everyone's striving for it, right? Like there's life gets busy, man. Like
Yeah.
it's hard to find, it's, if you can find sustained happiness and joy, like that's a good living. That's a
Yeah.
good way to be living.
Yeah. And that's what we all want. At the end of the day, we're so alike.
Yeah.
And that's what I like to like uncover with people like on and off the microphone. It's just like we enjoy many of the same things, but these differences just get in the way. Like even sports differences. It's like you guys both like soccer. Both teams love soccer. You're just rooting for the, different team, but 99% of your love is for the game and the sports and the energy.
It's that company I talked about, Smack Apparel, makes a living off of rivalries in sports, and
Ah.
that's a sports rivalries is a very interesting dynamic.
Oh,
But
sure.
yeah,
Yeah,
appreciation for the game is the ultimate thing that bonds people for sure.
definitely. Well, I appreciate you. I appreciate, like the high level that you brought to that sport and you're able to like take it to, imagine the different people who are listening to this podcast. Just really neat how you're able to continue that flame on and keep inspiring people. And it's just been cool to get to know you, man. I appreciate your time.
Man, I appreciate you having me on. It was fun to talk. It was
Yeah.
a good conversation, man. I appreciate it.